with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Well, welcome, everyone. I know that next on the agenda, Madam Chair and Board of Adjustment members, is introductions. I just wanted to point out to the audience and everyone else that we have a new Board of Adjustment member today, Robert Rettig. Welcome. Thank you for your volunteerism. And I just met Robert yesterday and wanted to welcome him personally. So would we want to go through and introduce ourselves? So,
Introductions?
yeah, it seems to be on here.
Hi, I'm Larry Graydon, farm with my family in Mount Vernon Township.
Okay. I'm Bob Rettig, live up in Wilson Township, up in Gilmer Ridge, and I'm an electrical contractor and manage the Gerald Rettig family farm.
And I'm Sheree Hales. I live here in town.
Phil Schwantz, Mount Vernon Township.
Rachel Stahl, Wiskoy Township.
Thank you. We need to approve the agenda. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Phil, second by Larry to approve the agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? And then we need to approve the minutes from last time. Ann pointed out there was a small numbering change, but otherwise no other changes. Were there any additions or changes or corrections to the minutes?
I move we approve. I read through them. I didn't see any problems.
Second.
All right. Motion by Larry, second by Rachel to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
Call the motion.
Oh, yes. We have to vote, don't we? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The minutes are approved. We have two petitions to hear today. The first is BOA 6/20/1901, August and Christopher Roth. A variance to allow a building site established on Class 2 soil type instead of the required Class 4 through 8 soil types pursuant to Chapter 10.4.76 of the zoning ordinance.
Hey, good afternoon. Getting into petition number 1, the Roth petition. This is a request to allow a new building site on Class 2 soils. The board should also be aware that it is a proposed new 6-acre parcel, so this item will also be in front of the Planning Commission tonight for consideration, with ultimately the county board taking final action on that request. Couple of maps to essentially show the acreage. The existing Roth parcel is everything that's essentially south of this section line in section 11 of Saratoga Township, and it's kind of irregular shaped. But the first item I wanted to note is that it's entirely in woods at this point in time. In fact, it's mature woods. It's old growth, mixed species. The map to the right of that is overlaying type 1, 2, and 3 soils. So you essentially, most of that parcel, there is a few drainage areas that kind of come in, but the parcel would be split somewhere in this point here, and the parcel would be about 100% of what would be mapped prime soils, even though it shows no evidence of agricultural use or production. Yeah, as I mentioned, kind of shows where that parcel would be created right in this area. They have a survey that shows how it'd roughly be split. The survey is somewhat puzzling. It doesn't show the entire acreage. It just shows key points, and you'll see that in the video. There's a couple of lathe stakes to kind of mark where the key points are. But in looking at this survey with north straight up, the existing residence would retain about 6 acres. That is the August Roth's residence, and the son, Christopher, wishes to then homestead this portion. As a staff report indicates, he first would like to put a shop building. I believe he is a trucker, so it needs storage for a semi. And he would also then reside, so there'd be living quarters, with the ultimate goal of within several years to construct a new house to accommodate that. And this would be the video. We are in section 11. Of Saratoga Township, and this is in regards to the August and Christopher Roth petitions. They seek a variance to allow a building site established on a Class 2 soil type instead of the Class 4 through 8. They also seek a conditional use permit to allow a building site on less than 40, in this case, a 6-acre proposed building site. We're currently on Fremont Drive, which is a Saratoga Township road, and essentially I'm looking at a surveyor mark, which would be, according to the one survey site plan, representative of that red line that runs north to south right at the Fremont Drive Township Road. As you can see from this vantage point, the building site would be approximately 300 feet to the north in the wooded area and roughly 150 feet from that north-south line. I'm not probably going to venture in there. I do not believe the building site is marked, but this video footage should give a pretty good example of what type of vegetation and terrain that we are dealing with. A new driveway would then be created off of the township road somewhere in that vicinity. Since it's a Saratoga Township road, the applicants would be required to contact the township to see what road specifications they would need for that driveway permit, whether or not a culvert would be required or other particular grade or drainage issues that would be associated with it. Again, the building site would be approximately, there's a shop, and then there would be a home located to the west. I believe the shop would be created first and potentially created originally to be occupied while the new home may be phased in there shortly thereafter. This is a view looking somewhat to the east at the neighbor. That would be the Orla Yoder residence. And they do have a feedlot. And the feedlot officer had met with the applicants, and the appropriate level of registration would represent a 500-foot setback for any new houses that would be built. We also have a Munt feedlot that is located westerly, somewhat to the northwest in that direction, and that is a considerable size feedlot, and that would require a 1,000-foot setback. In this case, the proposed building site was verified to meet those applicable setbacks. Currently, the Roth parcel is about 12 acres, And 6 acres would be designated for Christopher's new building site. If I just walk somewhat a little bit to the east, you can see the existing August Roth residence and garage. You can make it out right in that area with a driveway coming up at that point. Again, the site does not exhibit any agricultural land that has been cultivated or tilled in considerable history. Got mature hardwood deciduous wood cover on it. If you're looking to the west, as we pan to the south, it's bordered by alfalfa. And again, the neighbors. That should conclude the video footage for these applications. Couple of points. The one map in your packet shows that essentially the building site would be somewhere in this area, and those red lines are to illustrate what a 500-foot bar looks like in the Orla Yoder feedlot. I believe that was registered for 21 animal units. The one on the other side from the Munt feedlot, that is registered for 489 animal units according to December 2018 feedlot registration information. So that would carry a 1,000-foot setback, and so that red bar is to represent where approximately 1,000 feet would lie within the Roth parcel. Also, wanted to point out Saratoga Township did meet and discuss this application, and they supported the variance and conditional use permit request. Any questions on the staff report?
So that 1,000-foot setback from the Munt, the new house won't be in that area? I mean, I'm just trying to get my bearings on this map.
That's my understanding, but it will have to be confirmed. Should the variances, or the variance and the conditional use be granted, they would have to make application and they'd have to stake out the site. At that point, we'd have to verify that they would be meeting those setbacks.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Eric? Are the Roths here? Would the petitioner want to? Why don't you come forward, state your names and address? Thank you. So we need your name and address for our record here.
I'm August Roth, and my address is 1414910 Fremont Drive, Utica, Minnesota.
I'm Christopher, I'm his son, and I'm planning to build where we talked about it there.
Okay. So tell us about what do you want us to know?
We're not quite sure if it is gonna be that 150 setback from the line there. Until we get someone out there to kind of map out the 1,000 feet from the feedlot from Muntz, then we can kind of go from there. And also the woods just got logged 2-3 years ago.
3 years ago.
So by the road there, it looks real thick, but once you get in, it's not that thick. There wouldn't be too many trees to be taken down. And also my wife and I were gonna build a shop with a living quarter above as we drive over the road, just until we can build the house eventually to overlook my dad. Since he's never gonna move out of there, we plan, and I hope to never move out either, so.
Any questions for the Roths? So is this, has been in the family for a while, this 12 acres?
I moved there about in '82.
A while.
Yeah, it's a while.
And raised 12 kids on it.
Oh,
Okay. Any other questions? All right, thank you very much.
thank you.
So we need to open the public hearing. Is there a motion to do so?
So move.
Second.
Motion by Larry, second by Rachel. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? So the public hearing is open. If there is anyone who would want to speak for or against this request, please step to the podium and state your name and address. For the second time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please step forward. And the third time, if anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please step forward. Seeing that no one has, I need a motion to close the public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Motion by Bob, second by Phil, to close the public hearing. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing's closed. So, comments here?
I do have one question, and maybe Eric could have answered it when he was up there. So, do they have to get a permit from the county to build this shed?
They will, yes.
And so, to what degree or standards is that permit based on? Because I'm assuming this isn't an ag-type building, being that there's living quarters in it.
Correct. The best way I could answer that is it would be a kind of a multi-use, almost residential and also agricultural in nature, probably for storage or as a garage at some point. They're required to obtain a zoning permit, which we look at the use, is what we verify, the location and the setbacks. As far as electrical, they're required to meet the electrical code. As far as building code, they are entitled to build that themselves. However, if they select a contractor, that contractor would have to have a Minnesota builder contract license to do that.
So anywhere in that equation, is there snow load being addressed?
That is something we do not review, no.
I mean, my concern, and then after this winter, is what really generates this concern. In what little bit of work I've done with buildings, an ag-rated building is going to have a 20-pound snow load. A typical house, if you're going to build a house, it's going to have a 40, 45-pound snow load. So the only concern that I would have sitting on this board is, I really don't care if they want to build this building, but I would really urge this building to meet the state building code so that the snow load is addressed, the wind shear is addressed, that we know we're going to have egress windows in those bedrooms, that the electrical is going to be inspected. I mean, I know that sounds kind of burdensome, but when you start moving a family into this particular building, I've just been in too many where they're beautiful looking buildings, but they're not up to code.
Is there a time frame as far as how long they can occupy that as a, as a habitation?
We're obligated, I guess, the guidance on this is just in their comments that I believe they said within 5 years they built the house. But time plan has changed.
This would have been better addressed to the petitioner, but the implication is, in part, this is also something of a looking after your father as time passes, being, a family, joint family endeavor.
Yes, I do plan on building the house eventually, and we are gonna do the shop up to code. So it is, when we do the septic, we're doing it big enough for the house too. And I already had that all estimated out to do, we're just gonna go big just to be sure with the 5-bedroom septic. And then also, I guess, I don't know the whole rule with the windows and all that, but we were planning to make it like a living quarter. We're not home very often, but when we are, and we're also trying to do it without borrowing money. That's why we gave us a 5-year window period
Right.
to be able to get off the road and just have something to go home to. And then eventually build the house in steps.
Okay. Thank you.
I was just going to comment on the prime problem here is the prime land. And it seems that actually with the wooded, it's really protects the prime land better than farming would. So I think that's an advantage for a small building site, on the land. So as far as erosion, except for the building area, it seems like a win-win.
Are there any other comments or questions?
So just to be clear, our job here is to do what? Allow the building site on,
Prime.
That, yes, the variance is to build on prime, because the requirement for the variance is because it's on prime soils. So that's, our job would be to determine,
so the job of the planning commission, is that the other one that it has to go to now?
if the variance passes, then they would go to the planning commission this evening to apply for a CUP because it's not 40 acres.
Okay. I'm just trying to get it all straight in my head.
Yep. Me too.
I understand you want to protect the people from a snow load problem, but that's not what we're voting on today. We can certainly encourage, and I think they got a handle on making it stronger than it needs to be, but it's basically, like Bob said, the soils thing that we're talking about.
Correct. So are we ready to go through the criteria?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Maybe you could turn to that in your packet while we do this.
What page are you on, Sri?
That would be 19, the findings of fact. The variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the ordinance. The A&R district is established for the purpose of protecting working agricultural landscape of Winona County as a means to ensure the continued viability of this resource. This petition would allow a new home site near other family on land that has no recent use of cropping, so it would not jeopardize the viability of agriculture in the area. Do we agree with that?
I agree.
Yep.
The variance request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan generally supports the preservation and promotion of agricultural lands and uses. The present condition of the site contains mature woodland with no evidence of tillage or cultivation. By placing a shed and home on a wooded site, the petitioner is taking advantage of land not farmed in the recent past. The comprehensive plan seeks to preserve existing farmland, and the area the petitioner proposes to use is not existing farmland. Are we in agreement with this?
I do agree.
The applicant has established that there are practical difficulties in complying with the official control and proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner. The location is the best available on the property that allows for phased construction and meets applicable feedlot setbacks. The existence of prime soils is the practical difficulty at issue, but there are no other options to accommodate a building site once the parcel has been split.
And I understand that's true, right? That there's,
I think it's 100, almost
there's,
100%
what is there, a
prime
water,
land.
there's a waterway that, or drainage that it can't be in?
I think that's
it-
the other one.
Is that a different one? Okay. Well, then I agree with this one.
So are we in agreement with staff on this, that this is an appropriate site for this use?
I agree.
I do.
The variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property not created by owners of the property since enactment of the ordinance. The lack of class 4 to 8 soils on the property is the unique circumstance and was not created by the owners.
Right. Yes.
The variance will not alter the essential character of the locality, nor substantially impair property values, the public health, safety, or welfare of the vicinity. The homestead will have a similar character to other agricultural and residential homesteads in the area, so the essential character, property values, or public health would not be altered or impaired.
Agree. I agree.
Agree.
Okay? Economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties.
Is there more?
They were not mentioned during the request.
Yep.
Okay?
Okay.
The variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance and is the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty. No reasonable alternative appears to be available. The use of woodland and adherence to setbacks makes the proposed location the most reasonable.
Okay.
Okay?
Yep.
All right. The request is not a use variance and does not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. The A or C district permits the construction of residential agricultural buildings and accessory uses on the parcel, so the request is not a use variance. The proposed location is not in a floodplain and would not lower the degree of flood protection established by the regulatory flood protection elevation or lessen state law standards. The conditions that were attached were: the owners of the property to which this variance is issued will abide by all representations and commitments made during the permitting process, as well as before the Board of Adjustment, in accordance with all conditions to the variance. The petitioner shall obtain the required development certificate, septic permit, and comply with all relevant regulations and standards of Winona County and the state of Minnesota. The proposed new driveway shall adhere to the standards described in Chapter 9.7 of the zoning ordinance, and a driveway access permit shall be acquired from Saratoga Township. The owners of the property shall allow Winona County staff to inspect the property annually or as necessary to evaluate compliance with the variance issued. Does anyone feel like there should be anything in addition to that? Or are we comfortable with that?
I don't think I need anything additional.
I'm still a little bit fuzzy on the answers on the permitting for the building is all. I mean, to me, the permits that a homeowner has to follow to build a new house should be applicable in this standard, in this same situation. And maybe they're going to be anyway. I don't know. I just want to reinforce that.
All right, do you have any further questions of Eric about that, or?
Not really. I mean, I just don't know if,
In some counties, well, actually, they have 8 separate counties, I believe there's about 20-some that enforce building code, so they would actually have plan review, where they would have to go through, and they would have to determine the use and actually enforce building code. Like the majority of the counties in Minnesota, where we do not enforce building code at the county level for those areas that are outside of municipalities.
and that's what I find a little scary when you're talking about having a structure that's going to be basically, I realize it's a temporary home, but we don't know how temporary. I mean, if I could make one condition on there, and I encourage the board to support it, is this building needs to meet state building code.
Well, I think that'd be the planning commission's responsibility. Because our only purpose is to allow the variance.
That part I understand, Bob, but it talks about comments made during the permit process as well, and I would just want to reinforce that it follows building code.
Is that correct, that that would be more in the realm of planning? Okay. So if you're comfortable, do you want to go forward with this as it stands?
Could we pass on our recommendation to the planning commission via either the staff or our liaison to just say that we noticed this, and if the planning commission would consider adding that as a condition to their conditional use
It's
permit?
certainly an expressed concern.
Yeah, just to make sure that it's on their radar.
When I give my PowerPoint, it'll be this, it's essentially the identical presentation, and I'll basically hit on those points that come out of this meeting.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Phil.
Well, who is the liaison to the planning commission from
I
here?
am.
Okay, well, you can bring, you can express it.
I will
For
do
Phil,
so. I'm making a note as we speak.
Yeah.
State building.
But, yeah, usually, but and I understand too, in this case, if you try to do it as you can without borrowing money, usually the banks are the issue and enforce that. Once you borrow money, if you don't, then it isn't. Otherwise, generally institutions won't lend money for it, especially if the land title isn't clear and if the permits aren't clear and the building. But this case is a little different.
Okay. So, are we ready to move forward with this?
Did we settle on 8, or is that included with these 3? We never asked on 8 if we agreed to that.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know if you were lumping that, or,
Oh, you're
even though I
right.
do, but,
I did read number 8,
Yes.
but are we in agreement that this is not a flood hazard?
I am. But we never formally,
Thank you, Bob.
okay, yeah. I thought maybe you were lumping the conditions with that, so,
Oh, no.
okay.
Okay, so since we were in agreement with the 8 criteria and the conditions, with the addition of the concern for state building standards to be brought to Planning Commission, is there a motion to approve the variance?
So move.
I'll second.
Motion by Larry and second by Bob to approve the variance with the conditions that are currently attached. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Hearing none, the variance is approved. And I'd like, all decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel for the petitioner. So Chris and August and Mrs. Roth, we're pleased to say the variance has passed, and I will see you this evening at the Planning Commission. Let's see. Our second petition is for Dennis and Penny Steinhorst. Now, there was a late comment that came in, and I'm wondering if everyone had a moment to read that?
I did.
I read it.
Okay, didn't you? Okay. came in just before our meeting, so. So this is docket BOA 6/2019-02. The petitioner seeks a variance to allow a 24-foot setback for a new structure from the rear parcel line instead of the required 50 feet. It should be noted that the petitioners called to multiple times to change the setback number for their request. The most restrictive of the estimated variance needed is 24 feet. The Board of Adjustment would be potentially granting relief from Chapter 10.4.7, Number 4 of the zoning ordinance, which says all structures must meet a 50-foot setback from the rear property line. And let's see, Chuck, do you have some?
This is a petition for the rear setback, and like you said, it's written up as 24 feet because this is the most restrictive, but the Board of Adjustments does have the flexibility on that. The application was handed in May 17th with the 24-foot setback, and then on May 24th, she called 2 times, and one was with 40 and one was with 42. So you'll be seeing some slides in here with 42 feet. But again, what we're doing the petition for is the 24 feet because that's the most restrictive. But it's totally up to the Board of Adjustment. Also, the township acknowledgement form was with us on June 14th, and they signed it on June 13th with their support.
Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
This is located on the north side of Nichols Spring Road. And this is just an overall map of where it's located. It's on the southern part of the county. And again, you know, this is one with the 42 feet. And to give you some indication of where 42 feet would land from the property line. And as I understand it, they had this recently surveyed. So when I went out there Tuesday, and you're going to see some pictures of that, there's some flags, and I'm hoping that's indicating the property line. But this is where it would, and this is an existing slab. So this was a slab that was built in 2017. They're going to be using it for storage and a workshop, and the rear area is kind of protected with a tree line and farmland. So this is, if you can see, this is the stake, and this is the slab. And then I got another picture of that. Well, this was taken, so this was taken about right here. Okay, so the other shot is from right here. I'll show you.
Could you point it, okay, so, all right, that's the slab, all right.
Yep. Any questions from us?
So the slab is 24 feet from the back line.
40 feet, but they put the petition, like I said, on May 17th, 24 feet.
But
So
they
it's
want
40
to build on the slab, which is 40 feet.
Correct.
Okay,
So they're at 40-foot setback and it's supposed to be 50.
Correct.
Okay. So this 24 was just something that was.
Yeah, I'm going from what they put on the application.
Okay, no, it's a little confusing, I'm just trying to straighten it out.
Yes.
it is confusing.
Is there a limit on how close a slab can be, just the slab itself, to a property line?
A slab is not considered a structure.
So it can be right on the line if it wants to be.
Yes.
And do you know, well, or maybe you don't know, does this have frost footings and things like that?
I do not know
Okay,
that.
Okay.
So is the, either side of this parcel, the setback isn't an issue?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Do you have a drone view? Budget.
You gotta give the county a drone.
Let's not go there.
I hear you. Yeah.
Concerns about the illegality of such usage without consent.
Okay.
Also, Google Maps will, I was trying to get something from Google Maps, but Google Maps does not go down gravel roads, which is, you know, that gives you a kind of better view than this. All right, thank you.
So when the slab was put in, there wasn't a permit or any development?
They applied for a development certificate, and then it was discovered after the slab was poured that it was too close to the property line.
10 feet too close.
Correct.
So in the process, Chuck, when you apply for a developmental permit, nobody comes out from the county to measure?
Well, we did come out, and then, you know, and it looked like it was 50 feet, but then we went out again, and it was not. So then they were given the option of just leaving the slab, applying for a variance, or adding 8 feet this way onto the slab. And that was done in 2017, and now they're applying for a variance.
Okay, are there any other questions for Chuck?
Yes. Is this where I read about the moving, or that there being a problem with the drainage or something, or a ditch, or a slope? I mean, why it was originally kind of chosen? Is
Good
that
point.
Thank
You can kind of see this drainage right through here. See that line?
Okay, and then where's the actual slab?
The slab is here.
Okay, we can't, yeah.
So this is drainage from the field and going to here.
Okay.
And so this, where the slab is now, is not interfering with that drainage.
And is there a driveway or access to this slab?
Yes, well, this
Kind of.
is a driveway, and then this would just be a shed. So there's no driveway back to that shed. There's a driveway to the house.
So how was the cement pad poured? And I'm inkling on this letter because the letter claims that the neighboring property owners had to have traffic through their yard. True or false?
I do not know. I wasn't there when the slab was poured. You know, it looks like the concrete truck could have went through right through here, but I do not know where the concrete truck went through to get to that slab.
So is there a residence there?
Yeah, there's a residence right here.
And it's occupied?
It's being remodeled or worked on.
Okay.
Okay, are there any further questions for Chuck?
Just on the view, is the neighbor whose letter we just received, is their house in view on this?
I'm
Yes.
assuming it's that house right there.
Yes.
Which, to the right?
Am I allowed to state that? Okay. So it's right here.
Okay. And which is the house? The closest to the line,
I think,
or is that? Yeah,
is that correct?
Yeah, it's the one right there.
right there, okay.
Okay.
That's all I
All
have.
right, thank you. At this time, would the petitioner, if here, like to comment upon the request? If so, you need to come to the podium and state your name and address.
So am I clear on this, that this is 42 feet now?
I'm Penny Steinhorst. I live in Lanesboro, but that is our property.
Uh-huh.
About the contractor, we had a cement contractor. He did drive in their field in back of our house. He thought it was our property. But no other contractors have driven on their property. And the contractor did call me and told me about it because she ran out of the house after him.
So how did he get back there, Penny?
He drove.
Yeah, on your property to back
Yeah.
there?
Yep, he drove to the back of our property, and if you, it's like, it's there, yeah. Yeah, he drove onto their property in that other lawn, but he thought it was our property.
Okay, okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Ms. Steinhorst?
Was the location was chosen because it was ideal as far as slope and trees and,
Yep.
I mean, yes, that, right, yeah.
How do you get to it now?
We can drive back there.
But nobody told the cement guy to do that?
We weren't there.
But you must have talked to the contractor before he
Yep,
did
I told
it.
him it was in the back, but I didn't tell him exactly.
Can you
that
show
happened.
us with the PowerPoint where you would,
What?
how somebody, a contractor should drive and get back there? Can you drive back there from, is there wetland or anything to?
This is a waterway, but it only gets wet like in the spring when the snow melts.
Okay.
So there's no water in there, maybe 2 weeks out of the year.
So somebody would need to go in your house driveway and then drive around your house to get back there? How do you get back there? You're building a shed, you're gonna have to have trucks back there and different things.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Say you get a permit to build a shed and the contractor comes to build a shed, how is he supposed to get back there? Is he going your house driveway and drive around the house, or what would his access point be?
This is our driveway right here,
Okay,
and you can,
And then-
you can drive back here,
okay.
or you could drive over here.
Okay, all right.
And this
And all of
is,
that is lawn?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
And in the back of their property, that's all lawn too.
And one question is what kind of a slab is it? Is it frost footings or a floating slab? I mean, is around the edges, is it deeper?
It's 16 inches around the edge.
Around the edge and rebar or something, and, right, so it isn't just a matter of sawing it off and, okay.
and this, let's see, you said you currently live in Lanesboro?
Yep, we lived there, we moved out in July and bought a house in Lanesboro, and now we're fixing this one up.
Okay.
Okay. So are there any other questions for Ms. Steinhorst? All right, thank you. So I need a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Second?
Motion by Rachel and second by Bob to open the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is open. If anyone would like to speak for or against this petition, please step forward and state your name and address. And maybe since the people who wrote this letter said they couldn't be here, is there anything from this that we need to, discuss at all?
Madam Chair,
We
that
can-
would better be served during the discussion portion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure if that would be, thank you. Attorney Nuttall, right? I do. It's a lot to learn.
Right.
Right. For the second time, is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against this petition? Please step forward. And the third time, is there anyone who'd like to speak for or against this petition? Please step forward. Seeing that there is no one, could I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So move.
Second.
A motion by Bob and second by Rachel to close the public hearing. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The public hearing is closed.
Okay.
So, discussion portion.
So just for clarification, this is being triggered because of 8 feet.
10, I think it is, but yes. Pardon?
Well, you're supposed to have a 50-foot setback, and they're measured now as 42 feet. So when I went to school, that would be.
Okay. I thought you said 40, but,
Yeah.
okay. Yes. And the 24 feet was a little confusing, I will say.
Well, at 24 feet and 42 feet, my attitude changes. I mean, I hate to say it, but.
Yeah, I mean, it's still whatever, yeah, but, right. Yeah, in reading the letter, and I know what can happen between neighbors and properties and things can, get contentious sometimes, and I wish they were here if it was very important to them. As far as the issues, in the prime, or the way to deal with the findings is that there isn't any better space to move it, really, even if it's 8 feet.
It would seem so.
I mean, that's the reasoning.
If it was me, I'd probably add 8 feet on the other side of the slab and then put a picnic table on the other side and wouldn't even have to have this meeting. That's what I would do.
The money you spent for the variance away.
Yeah.
You could have bought the concrete.
Yeah.
Huh?
The thing is too is if it was just a 4-inch slab, you could just about take a bulldozer and move it, but with frost, I mean, not frost, but a floating footing, and then to attach that rigidly to the other one, so float equally with it, build a building on it, but as the frost will move this slab, so the building could flex. So that's, I don't think, I was thinking that too, but it isn't like a gazebo that can flex a little.
Any other comments or thoughts about this?
Well, it seems to me the prime case of don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
That too. Yeah, we did have yeah.
So,
Do you want to go through the findings, or does this be the time to, I guess I would look at it as that it be set that it be changed to allow the setback to be what it is at the present time, because without knowing the line we don't know what the footage is.
So to set it at 42 instead of 24?
Yeah, or we set it at where it exists.
Can I clarify? When we submitted the papers, we didn't know where the property lines were.
Yeah, right, yeah. Yeah.
When we submitted the paperwork to the board, we didn't know where the property lines were. And we got the property lines from the county with the aerial view. And anyway, we submitted the paperwork. Week later, our surveyor finally showed up and marked out our property lines. Once he did that, with the property lines from the county, it was 24 feet. When they did the actual survey, and ended up being 42 feet. So does that clarify everything?
Yes.
And if we did think about adding to the cement in the front to avoid this, but if we did that, it kind of encroached on the waterway. So then we would have to change that, so.
thank you.
Well, I'm ready to go through the findings. If
All right,
everyone else wants to.
okay. Are we good to go through the criteria?
And where are they?
It would be page 43. variance request is in harmony with the intent and purpose of the ordinance. The purpose will minimize modification to existing natural vegetation and takes advantage of existing driveways. Are we in agreement with this, that with this criteria is met?
I agree.
The variance request is consistent with the comprehensive plan. The shed would be similar to others in the area and would not impact local agricultural practices.
Agree.
The applicant has established that there are practical difficulties in complying with the official control and proposes to use the property in a reasonable manner.
Yes,
Okay.
I agree.
We don't know. If they're gonna sell it, they might set up a treehouse or something there, I don't know.
But that's, yeah, but that's not, yeah. No, I mean, I don't think selling it or keeping it is relevant, really.
It's not really.
No, that's, yeah, they can do whatever they is
So
allowed legally. I haven't found the findings yet.
staff's comment on that is other locations on the property where a shed could be located would require removal of trees and/or being in a drainage area. So are we in agreement that there are practical difficulties here?
Yes, I haven't seen it, but I understand that's what is represented, that there are trees and drainage involved.
I didn't see trees on there.
There were rows of planted trees.
Pretty much right along here.
On that side.
Yep.
You got a couple slides we could show us, Chuck?
Yep, that's a tree line.
But that's in the 42 feet, or where is that?
No, that's on the side yard. These trees are in the side yard. That's the neighbor's house there. So this is the rear setback.
So is that the neighbor's trees, or whose trees are there?
And that's the tree line.
So if they moved the slab toward their house, they wouldn't be cutting any trees down?
Well, there's also the drainage way that's coming
On
through
the other
here.
side, yeah.
Can you show any of that?
Yeah, it's kind of,
So here's the tree line, here's the drainage area, this is the slab. So you move this way, you're gonna be in the drainage area, move this way, you're gonna be into that.
How big a lot are we talking about here? What is this?
1.15 acres,
Okay.
and what is an acre? 207 by 207, so. Of course, it's not exactly square, but that gives you some rough dimensions.
Okay, so with number 4,
did we agree on 3?
we agreed on 3.
Right, but he had a question on it, didn't you? Or did you agree on 3?
I didn't see
Yeah.
any trees toward the house they don't have a picture of that.
No,
I agree on 3, but
so
I don't know if everybody else does.
are we in agreement on number 3, that other locations on the property where a shed could be located would require removal of trees and/or being in a drainage area?
Was there trees there, Chuck, between the slab and the house, or no?
No.
No trees?
Big maple closer to the house.
One tree. Okay. Let's go on.
So,
We don't all have to agree, sure,
okay,
Oh, I see. Okay.
all right. The variance request is due to special conditions or circumstances unique to the property not created by owners of the property since enactment of the ordinance. A wooded area and drainage area are conditions unique to the property that were not created by the owners. The selected location avoids these areas but requires a variance from the setback requirements. A
I
variance
agree.
of 8 feet.
I agree because,
Phil? Okay.
I'll let you know when I'm not okay.
okay,
All right.
so
Okay.
silence is approval of everything.
The variance will not alter the essential character of their locality, nor substantially impair property values or the public health, safety, welfare of the vicinity. The proposed shed as an accessory to the existing home is consistent with the rural residential character of the area and will not impair property values or public health or safety. Do we agree with that?
I do,
Yep.
Okay, Larry?
Maybe.
maybe. Silence is golden.
Okay. The economic considerations alone do not constitute practical difficulties. Although the petitioner mentioned only the economic considerations of the initial financial investment in the concrete slab and the cost of removing it, the logistical difficulties of the wooded area and the drainage area are also considerations. So the economic considerations are not the sole basis for the request.
Well, it's all about the money. If you wanted to move it, it would cost money.
Yeah, I mean, economics definitely are a consideration here.
But not the only one.
Right. I think in, that's number 6.
And I think the alleviation could be detrimental to the building, to the soundness of the building without tearing it all out and making it as a unit, the way it's designed. So it could make it for an unstable building if we required it to add on.
To pour a new 8 feet, you mean?
Yes, yeah, that'd be definitely a big problem.
In the staff analysis, it said economic considerations were mentioned in criteria 3. As petitioner expressed concern about their investment of $3,500 into the slab and that the financial implications of removing it and repouring it in a different location would be considerable if the variance is denied. However, economic considerations alone, which is a key word in this particular criteria, are not the only difficulty. A drainage area and wooded area on site are also factors. So how do we find on criteria 6?
Or 7?
Economic considerations.
All right, okay. I agree.
Rachel, Phil? Larry?
Reluctantly agree.
So noted.
Put an R by it.
Yep. Variance cannot be alleviated by a reasonable method other than a variance, and is the minimum variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty.
Well, that's where I would like to make sure that it's not a 24 feet, but that it's actually where it is, so that in the future, it couldn't be added on to make it down to 24 feet to the line. And I don't know if that's, but I see that as a,
Madam Chair, I just noticed that apparently I did not include any draft language.
I noticed that myself.
oh, that's why there's 8, okay.
Yep, so if you would like to tell me what you would like included in there, I can draft something quickly.
Well, I would like to see it say that as the slab is now, it can't get closer to the line.
Would that
Get
be
back
a
to the line, I
condition?
see.
That would be,
Okay,
So we do that at the end?
right.
essentially this is just asking, is there any other reasonable method that could negate the need for the variance? And is this the smallest variance that can possibly be granted?
But
In the
that's-
staff analysis, this is what it says for number 7. The variance cannot be alleviated by another reasonable method without repouring the slab, effecting woodland removal and the creation of a longer access driveway, which could impact the drainage portions of the property. That's from the staff analysis.
It's, as it stands, the variance is for a 24-foot setback.
Unless you change that.
Can we change it right at 7 or do it at the end?
It would be in the variance itself, down
to 42 feet.
And we know that's, so that's just a dyslexic typo there. No, I'm kidding, but.
So let's stay with number 7 here.
With number 7, had I actually drafted it, I would have copied and pasted what is in the staff analysis.
Okay.
If that helps.
Are we all comfortable with using staff analysis to finish number 7 here?
Yeah, I am.
I am.
And are we in agreement that this is the appropriate variance for this?
Well, I'm wondering if a compromise might be in order. What is the size of this slab exactly?
Of the shed?
Yeah, the slab is 20 by 28.
20 by 28? So the slab is 20 by 28, and the purpose of it was a storage shed or some sort?
You just suggested build a 20 by 20 building instead of a 20 by,
Well, it depends on which side is closest to the line. It looks like the longer side would be, so suggesting 18 by 28. That'd give you a couple feet buffer, you know. If you put it right on the edge and somebody wants to,
Is it 28 feet, is it the length of the building that's getting close to the line? So in
Oh, it's
in
the length.
scenario, a 20 by 20 wouldn't require variance, is that what you're saying?
No, it's 10 by 20. 10 by 28.
so it's
Oh.
the width,
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that'd be ridiculous, yeah.
the width of the building.
Yeah, yeah.
I thought it was the length.
Yeah, I was thinking it was 2. Well,
Okay, I'm
I
good.
agree, yeah, I'd go ahead with 7 as long as we address it later.
to change the variance to be the appropriate number of feet.
To the, yeah, what the setback actually
Okay,
is.
so getting back to 7,
I agree
are
with
we
it.
in agreement with 7? That the variance cannot be reasonably alleviated other than a variance, and this is the minimum of variance which would alleviate the practical difficulty, which is being 8 feet too close to the rear setback.
I agree.
Okay?
No, I don't agree with that, but that's okay. I'm not necessarily in the majority. It seems to me that that could be moved. And there's options, it's just the money.
Right.
You think the slab could be moved itself or the building plan could be changed?
Pardon?
You think the slab itself could be moved? Is that what you're saying?
No, you would have to,
Build a smaller building?
yeah, you could do that, or you could add on to one side of the slab.
Then it goes into the waterway.
Well, I got a lot of waterways, they can be shaped, that's not huge. The water runoff is gonna go into the waterway and cause more issues anyway.
So,
Cement doesn't absorb water, neither does steel.
So where are we at on the vote? He's quiet, so that he agrees.
are you in agreement with number 7? Yes? Yes,
I
yes? Okay. So, I feel like we're kind of riding over some of Larry's concerns here, but I'm going to read number 8 is the request is not a use variance and does not have the effect of allowing any use that is not allowed in the zoning district, permit a lower degree of flood protection than the regulatory flood protection elevation, or permit standards lower than those required by state law. This shed would be an accessory building, which is permitted in the district and therefore not a use variance. The location is not located in a floodplain and does not lower the degree of flood protection or lessen state law standards. The conditions that were attached to this by staff, the owners of the property to which this variance is issued will abide by all representations and commitments made during the permitting process, as well as before the Board of Adjustment, in accordance with all conditions to the variance. The petitioner shall obtain the required development certificate and comply with all relevant regulations and standards of Winona County and the state of Minnesota, to include meeting the state electrical code and obtaining the required permit and inspection if applicable. The owners of the property shall allow Winona County staff to inspect the property annually or as necessary to evaluate compliance with the variance issued. Think that there were some additions to this, Bob?
Oh, yeah. Well, actually, 8, did we vote on 8?
It's a no-brainer, it's not in a
I know it,
floodplain, but
But it's,
We are all in
we have to,
agreement.
we have to definitely vote on it, though.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're here to
Yeah,
remind me.
Because, yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, and the condition, but also petition for following variance, can that be changed there? It says to allow a 24-foot, can that be changed to 42-foot?
If that's what the Board of Adjustment wishes to do.
That's what I wish, but.
Agree.
Yep, 42.
He doesn't agree.
Okay. Well, we have this majority rule thing going on here. Okay, so
So I move, yeah, so I formally move that we change the 24-foot.
is there a second to that?
Oh, okay.
I'll second.
Bob has moved and Phil has seconded that we change the language to be from 24-foot setback to a 42-foot setback for this new structure from the rear parcel line, instead of the required 50 feet. Does that works?
Now we vote on it.
So all in favor of making that change, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? That change has been approved then. Were there any other conditions you wanted to add to this?
I don't think so with the, I would just like to comment that since they were attempting all the time to follow the rules, get a permit, and there was some mix-up in the, but they were always following the rules, so I'm willing to look at, and I don't think there's any problem with it. But 8-foot sounds better than the others, and so I'm, inclined to go along with the conditions as they are.
Okay. So,
did somebody say that they were within the guidelines? Did somebody at the
No.
county tell them that?
No, but they're, right now it's measured at 42 feet,
Right.
when they know where the property line is.
Right. but
Yeah.
When they, who told them that it was
Well,
50?
Eric said they had a permit originally, but it wasn't
Right,
marked.
there was a permit that had been initially issued in 2017, but due to concerns of where the property line was, staff went back and verified that there was a shortcoming in that setback, so that if you're not meeting the setback, that kind of null and voids your permit until you address it. So, bottom line is
They attempted to follow the rules.
So do we have a motion to approve this variance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Rachel and seconded by Phil to approve the variance for a shed with a 42 rather than 50-foot setback. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
The variance has been approved. All decisions by the Board of Adjustment in granting variances or in hearing appeals from any administrative order, requirement, decision, or determination shall be final, except that any aggrieved person or persons, or any department, board, or commission of the jurisdiction or of the state shall have the right to appeal within 30 days after receipt of notice of the decision to the district court in the county in which the land is located on questions of law and fact. Any party that would like to submit an appeal to the decision rendered at the public hearing must do so to the district court. Planning and Environmental Services is not responsible for filing the appeal or obtaining representation by counsel for the petitioner. So your variance has been approved? Good luck.
And thank you.
So, and I think, I don't know what you need to do with Chuck now, but you can.
Okay. And this is just a
see.
memo, or?
So we do have, the next agenda item is, I presume, okay, I wasn't quite sure this will be more of a discussion or presentation, correct?
Yeah, it's just a discussion, it's just an item we wanted to communicate with the Board of Adjustment since it involves township acknowledgement forms, which are required for variances, and they come before you, so if this amendment gets adopted by the Planning Commission, eventually, there'd be an ordinance change, and you can expect to then see, in certain circumstances, additional township acknowledgement forms coming through from neighboring townships as well.
Right.
The request came from the Township Association, Officers Association, and came out of a petition that we had, I don't know, it was a while ago, but the property was right on the township boundary line.
Right.
And so the neighbor who was upset about the petition had gone to both townships, and the neighboring township included, and brought them into it. And that township wasn't, they weren't happy that they weren't officially required to, the petitioners weren't officially required to go to them for comments, and they wanted very much to make comments. Of course, anybody is always able to make comments, whether they have to go, the petitioners have to go to their meeting and ask them officially for comments or not. But the township officers did request officially to have us look at that for an ordinance change, and we've done that and packaged an amendment for the consideration of the Planning Commission. So I did write a memo. It's in your packet. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. If you have any comments to pass along in the Planning Commission, you may do so.
Okay.
The amendment is also there. Areas underlined are new proposed language, and areas crossed out would be removed. Most of it is new. We also, when we were going through, we noticed in the Board of Adjustment section under procedure, there was some language missing for the notification, and actually the portion that includes township acknowledgement form. So in the Planning Commission section, there was a process that was there that didn't show up in the Board of Adjustment section for variances. And they apply to both. So we made that change and included that language. A lot of it was just state statute language that applies anyway for noticing.
Right.
But it wasn't in the section. I think it's good to be there just because sometimes we do reference the section, and if we're referencing a notice for Board of Adjustment, it's good to be able to reference the Board of Adjustment section as opposed to the Planning Commission section. So we took the opportunity to add that basic notification language in there, and then change the township acknowledgement form to include language that says for petitions that are located, the property is located on the boundary of a township, so it has to abut the neighboring township. In that case, the petitioner will have to then go to that township as well.
Right.
So that's 2 meetings that they'll have to go to, and get 2 township acknowledgements signed, and then present that to you. So if this goes through the Planning Commission, you might, in certain circumstances, it doesn't happen very often where you have one up against the township line, but when it does, you might get 2 township acknowledgement forms, and that's what that'll be about.
Right.
It does add a bit of a burden for the petitioner. They have to make sure they hit 2 meetings in those circumstances, and sometimes that can mean an extra month onto their schedule. depending on, because of the way that the township meetings fall. So,
Were all the townships in agreement on this?
I wasn't at the township meeting, maybe
Okay.
Kay can chime in on that.
The township officers voted in favor of asking that this language be amended in both the Board of Adjustments and the Planning Commission to add that. They felt, I don't know that it was unanimous, but I believe it might have been. And then we made a request to add that to the list of language cleanups through the county board, and they were in favor of it as well.
So does anyone have any questions for Lou? I mean, it seems perfectly reasonable to me. It might, I think I was at the meeting where that, that happened. It abutted the township, and there was a little bit of unhappiness. The other township officers felt that they had been sort of slighted, and everybody needs to know.
It's a pretty easy way to, keep township officers happy, yeah, I think,
Want to do that,
Yes, we do.
right, Phil? So,
Until the,
Add is that if you're a township officer or you talk to them, if this goes forward, there's literally, if you take a township, it's 6 square miles. I mean, there's literally hundreds, if not more, of properties that are gonna be bordering one township or
Yeah.
another. In some cases, 2 or 3. In that case, they're gonna have to do a round robin of 3 townships. So this is gonna be extreme burden, I believe, on people that are in that circumstances. So if they're showing up to neighboring townships, I hope that those townships are gonna give them the consideration, because we're gonna treat it that if they don't have that signed or commented, it's gonna be treated like an incomplete application. So if you're a town board member, or if you talk to them, I mean, these people are gonna be looking for consideration, and I hope, this could really raise havoc with a lot of people that are making these applications.
Madam Chair, to Eric's point exactly, Commissioner Ward stood up at that township officers meeting and made that exact point, saying you understand that this could delay somebody's petition from being considered complete, and it won't be planning and environmental services standing in the way, it will be following the rules, saying you don't have all of your township acknowledgements completed. And so there was that understanding before the vote was taken.
Yeah, you can see the situation where, petitioners could get a little fatigued by having to go to multiple township meetings to do that, but, if everybody needs to,
In the scheme of things in today's society with my grandkids and all the things that can happen so quickly, can't they email or text, or it's all gotta go to a meeting?
You have to have the
and
consensus.
it's once a month.
You guys got a form in here signed by the township.
Yeah.
Does that have to be a form that's hand-delivered, or can it be emailed here?
Well, I mean, we'll take it if it's been properly acted upon in regular session.
I mean, could a person say, I went to Mount Vernon and Norton Township and requested this, and over the phone? And they said,
Most of the townships, you'll not get one single member that will take action on it.
They can't.
They can. They have.
oh, Phil, you're on the town board, aren't you? Is that something we're gonna get to eventually, is something a little more less jargon about?
I can't foresee into the future, Larry, so I don't know.
so,
Is Commissioner Ward's comments, was that, how do that's probably not our thing, but how do the town officers' minutes are kept? Are those in the minutes? I mean, I would like to see that actually on record for when someone complains. So it's on the record here.
was that part of an official transcript at the township officers meeting, or?
I'm not sure how much gets recorded. We try to capture everybody's remarks at all times, but in the interest of our ACE administrative assistant, sometimes we provide, a synopsis. So I am not sure. Stephen White from the township officers, is he clerk?
Secretary.
Secretary, could provide that transcript, I'm sure, but.
Yeah, I'd just like to see that it is on the record that someone spoke to that, so, you know,
And
so
possibly
they've been warned.
that could
I'll
go
talk to my
forward.
township officers.
That could go forward maybe as a comment from this group that, that consideration be made as far as timeliness on the part of town boards, so as to help petitioners facilitate what they're after doing. So, thank you.
You're welcome.
So is there anything else we need to attend to here? If not, could I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Moved by Larry and seconded by Rachel. All in favor of adjourning, say aye.
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 Opposed?